It's been 273 days since the incident. I've lost everything dear to me. I don't know how it started, and when I had woke up from the coma it had just begun. The hospital was getting lit up from gunfire. Few of us made it out of the building. Fewer got to the city. I'm a wanderer, traveling to find more supplies.
Who are you guys?
We're the libertarians.
Drones have become a somewhat contentious topic in recent years. The explosion of lightweight, portable drones in the consumer market has enabled anyone to go to their local Walmart and pick up a flying toy with a camera. Sometimes these things can be as small as a computer mouse. No one would ever know that you were spying on them from a distance. These micro drones, of course, have weak cameras that cannot do any real harm. But what if this technology could be scaled up? Big time. Wouldn't you be a bit concerned? Little or big, machines flying around the globe, always watching, scanning, calculating. Wouldn't you be a little bit concerned if not only your government was doing this, but corporations like Amazon, Facebook, or Google, constantly collecting data on you, your loved ones, and even your dog? Or how about individuals? Your neighbor Rick, the creepy one you don't talk to, probably has a DJI-4 hanging up around your house, too far away to hear or see, yet it still sees you. And that is just surveillance. Have you ever thought about weaponizing drones? It happens all the time. The math and engineering required to put a handgun or an assault rifle on a nimble machine is difficult, but it has been done. Precision weapons are rare, but bombs or gas is not. This is scary, a small threat you wouldn't see coming. And this is what happened to me in my time. I sat down with the libertarians to find out more details.
So how did this all happen?
The first drones were small, radio-controlled planes, boats, and cars. These were made just by hobbyists who liked to tinker with electronics and motors on the cheap. The small hobbyist drones were harmless, albeit some noise and maybe some upset neighbors, but nothing really could injure someone, physically or socially. These toys had little to no regulation, and everything was good.
However, certain technological advancements had been fostering in private sectors, and soon the consumer drones came that we know today. Recreational use of consumer drones was largely untouched, but commercial use became much more heavily regulated. On February 13, 2007, the Federal Aviation Administration introduced a policy document to the United States. Inside, they spelled out a public policy requiring the assignment of certificates for authorization. Everyone, from photography companies to oil spill researchers, needed to get one of these certifications. Issuing the documents was slow, and big corporations began demanding changes.
Later, in 2012, Congress released a bill that prohibited the FAA from borrowing or managing the recreational use of drones. The Reform Act also forced the FAA to create compliance laws regarding commercial drones by 2015. Additionally, Sector 333 of the Act allowed exemptions to commercial laws, such as the earlier certificates, on a case-per-case basis. These clearances still took a long time, but granted, it was better than a lot of those earlier processes.
But all of that seems harmless. What's a little business regulation?
Well, businesses started to become unhappy. It was the new thing to have a drone service integrated into the company, and once the public got a taste, they just couldn't get enough. It was like Pandora's box got opened up. The internet exploded with drones. Privacy became a huge concern in the home. The FAA was having a heyday mailing out cease and desist orders left and right. Soon after, other local government agencies, police, and firefighters started using them. No one could resist the cheap and easy-to-use nature of drones.
The uncontrolled expansion of the drone market caused massive problems. Not only were the drones becoming more common, but also more advanced. Higher quality cameras, radios, and microphones meant that a drone operator could easily spy on the actions of someone a dozen or even more miles away. Not only were such invasions almost impossible to detect, but there was no way of knowing who was controlling it, and if you could find it.
How are people okay with that invasion of privacy?
For most people, the negatives were hidden behind the positives. The popular benefits for consumers range from delivery to having your own robotic cinematographer. No one complained that while drones were delivering packages on their front step, their personal information was being cataloged by that very same drone. It was like the social media craze before it. People just didn't realize how much they were giving up until a major security flaw showed this system in its error.
The potential danger of drones was known from the very beginning. Even the military recognized the importance of these drones.
The military?
Oh yeah, way before the first regulatory act by the FAA. The first military drone strike was in 2002, and ever since then the pace of drone strikes has increased. Under President Obama, for instance, there were an average of 4 drone strikes conducted per day on foreign soil. The results of such strikes is debated. Some argued that the drones were inefficient in killing hostiles, violated international law, limited the military strength, and psychologically traumatized civilians, while also emotionally disconnecting soldiers from the actual horrors of war.
Conversely, drones were very beneficial in that they lowered the risk of PTSD, kept the U.S. relevant and up-to-date technologically, and generally kept the United States military safer in combat situations. Finally, they keep costs and civilian deaths down. Regardless, the U.S. got crazy over drones, and soon stuff got pretty out of control.
The militarization of drones was not complex. Soon terrorist organizations were militarizing drones, and a drone you could buy off the internet for $50 could lift enough explosives to take out multiple tanks. Mortality rates increased uncontrollably as the drone war escalated.
How did you guys survive?
As libertarians, we never trusted the government to begin with. You wouldn't believe the number of hitting machine guns in this house. If we had not been preparing for war with the government to go crazy as long as we did, we would have never made it.
Where did it all go downhill?
Well, it all started with the FAA making the register on drones. Then it was the military buildup. Most people welcomed it as the end of manned warfare, but we saw the potential danger. We never registered. Once the Jeffersonian liberals took over, everything went south. Drones replaced our police, our troops, even the pizza delivery guy. I miss Domino's. Then one day, the Chin, Moore, announced a cleansing. Immediately, all the registered drones with the FAA were detonated, killing millions. Then the military-grade drones were sent in, picking off even more. Now the world is under a cyborg regime, with the flesh as the brain and metal as the muscle.
Was there any real hope, ever?
Yes, there was. If in some other world there was more of us good Americans, we could have turned the tide early on. We didn't check our government enough. We didn't stop the FAA. We should have restricted what the government could use against us, like our drone information, our cameras, our electronics. Furthermore, we should have made any military drone action desired by the president go through Congress as well. Military action with too little consequences, as in the case with military drones, is too much power to rest in the hands of one man, elected or not.
What we should have done is force drone operators to establish flight plans, data collection practices, and information sharing. Both the FTC and state attorney generals would be empowered to bring enforcement actions against operators who violated people's privacy. We should have also urged the FAA to adopt baseline enforceable standards for drone policy, such as data minimization rules and transparency, that would inform the public about who operates drones that may affect their privacy. Relatedly, the ACLU has called for mechanisms to allow citizens to opt out of property surveillance. There's no shortage of ideas for reform in the realm of drone piloting.
The government wouldn't change, so we did.